Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Good Pods, wherever you can find your podcast. Our guest today is Dr. Terance Shipman. He is here today to celebrate the latest in his Kindergarten Chronicles series. It's called Field Trip to the Farm. Before we invite Dr. Terance into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the books by Alva Sachs. Alva Sachs has been a great friend to the show, and she is an unbelievable advocate of reading. She is the president of Reading is Fundamental Southern California. We just love her books. They're so much fun and so full of imagination. One of my favorites is Circus Fever. Jessica has a big imagination and an even bigger love for clowns. The circus is coming to her town, and she can't wait to go. There are lots of surprises waiting for her and for you. What happens to Jessica under the big top is an adventure she will never forget. Circus Fever is just one of the many award-winning books from Alva Sachs. You want to also check out I'm 5, Dear Master Dragon, Dancing Dreidels, and of course, The Pirate Princess. You can learn more about Alva Sachs and all of her wonderful books by visiting her website, alvasachs.com. We also want to let you know that we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read. It's Mission Control, a big feelings adventure written by Nan Arkwright and illustrated by Joe Bauman. Nan and Joe were on the show not too long ago to celebrate Mission Control. The story follows a little boy named Joseph who is busy watching TV with his pet dog Gretchen. Joseph loves watching his favorite superhero show called Spaceman Sam. But when it's his bedtime, his mom tells him to switch off the TV and go to bed. When he hears this, Joseph fumes with anger. He doesn't want to stop watching TV and miss out on all the fun. Just when his big feeling takes over him completely, his kind mother advises him to follow his favorite Spaceman Sam's mantra. Feel it, say it, calm it, solve it, to solve the problem. Mission Control, a big feelings adventure, is a wonderful book that helps young children learn to identify emotion and control them. It's a wonderful addition to any family library, and it is our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read. I am so excited. It is great talking to our guest today. He's returning to the show to celebrate his brand new picture book. It's called The Field Trip. Please welcome back to the show one of our favorite teachers, Dr. Terance Shipman. Hey, Dr. Shipman, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Dr. Shipman, Dr. Terance, is speaking to us from inside the Millennium Falcon, which is parked in Atlanta, and everybody is really happy that the Braves won down there, and I know that everybody on Team Shipman is really excited that the field trip is now available.
It is. It's the fifth book in 4 years, and it's the second book this year. It's the first time we put out 2 books in 1 year, so I'm very excited. And my sons and a lot of other people say this is the best one.
All right.
Of all the 5.
All right. So just recap, Team Shipman is this really neat movement. It's a really neat team, and they're made up of family, but there are also a lot of members of Team Shipman were kids that you had in the classroom as young as kindergartners, right?
Right. I'm still in touch with a lot of my former students from my first year teaching. I think it's about 4 or 5 of them that I'm still in touch with. And so we're looking at over 28 years of teaching. I've built relationships with students from elementary all the way up to high school. And we all have a Facebook group called Team Shipman.
We're definitely going to be talking about this brand new book, but I just want to take a minute. Teaching 28 years, my beautiful wife just retired after teaching for 34 years. And I think that you would agree with her. Teaching has really changed in that time.
It's changed a lot.
And from your expression, not always for the best.
No. I just, before I started this interview, I just finished putting grades in the grade book. Was told before I left, oh, I forgot, you need to post grades tomorrow. Really? Okay.
Tomorrow? Thanks for the heads up.
So, yeah, it's changed a lot. But I still have a love for it. I still love the art of teaching and learning.
Yeah. One of the things that my wife has noticed the biggest change is that, you have this relationship with kids, that you taught 28 years ago. And kids that you taught 25 years ago and 15 years ago. And I love, we're friends on social media. I see you posing with some of your former students as they're graduating from high school. And you can see the pride coming from you. You're just so proud of these kids. They become part of your family. But one of the things that my wife experienced recently is that a lot of the young teachers that coming in, they're like, well, we're professional. When the kids leave your classroom, that's it. You don't need to say hi to them in the hallways. They're my kids now, and you have a new group of kids, and you don't need to talk to these guys. That's something my wife just didn't stand for.
Yeah, I agree. I just think for those 10 months, from day one, I worked real hard at building relationships with my students. And those relationships carry past 10 months if you're a really good teacher. Because you just don't stop teaching then. You keep going even after then. Even now, some of my adult students, I'm still teaching them things. I'm sending them free books. So for their children, they have kids now. And I'll be like, what's your address so I can send you a book? I have to keep teaching my way of keep teaching them.
Yeah. And obviously one of the ways that you teach them is to let them know that they're loved, that they're valued, that somebody in this life respects them and believes in them. Yeah.
Yes, it is. I have to say one of my role models is, as soon as I see his name, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Mr. Rogers.
Right. I saw it on my bulletin board this month. I have a poster of Mr. Rogers. And I remember last year when I did online teaching for almost the whole year. Almost every day or every other day, I would play It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. But I also would do the closing song. So the students always knew, we're getting ready to go home. He's playing that song again.
Well, let's talk about the field trip. I know as a kid, I have memories of field trips that I was on when I was in third grade, and that's almost 100 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about the book.
It's based upon the true events. One of my favorite field trips that we used to take was actually going to the farm. I remember one year we went and it had rained the night before. And I told the teachers, I don't think we should go. They was like, no, we're going. So we went to the farm, went through the corn maze. Somebody lost their shoe. Kids were muddy. But what also made this trip special was I used to be an assistant manager at a movie theater. The movie theater was like 10 miles away from the farm. So we would go to the farm, and on the way back to the city, we would stop by the movie theater because a lot of kids never seen a movie. But what we used to do is just bring them in, let them sit down, and just let them watch the previews. Mm-hmm. And they was just so excited because they got to go to the farm and go to the movie theater. So this book I think Milan, this is his best work. I'm just blown away. Every time every day I look at one of the books, I found something new. He was like, he really put his foot in it.
Yeah. And when we're talking about is your illustrator.
Yes. I call he lives in Serbia.
Uh-huh.
And so we're constantly communicating through Zoom or email. And he's fantastic. Now, it takes him forever to get a book done, but it's okay. He's working on one now. So, like I said, this is the first year that we actually got 2 books in a row done. So we really felt great about it. Yeah,
that's great. And, field trips, especially for kids in the inner city, for kids in any school, but especially kids in inner city and some other low income districts, a field trip may be, like you said, the first time that a kid sets foot in a movie theater, or the first time a kid steps foot on a farm. I know, my beautiful wife was a teacher in the city of Boston, and we used to I would accompany them on field trips, and we would go to the farm, and the kids would meet pigs and goats and all these different, and they're like, that's a really big dog. No, that's not a dog. That's a pig.
Yeah. And I think that's part of what I wanted to make sure I captured in the book was that experience of actually getting on the bus, singing songs, getting out, seeing all the different things that a farm has to offer. And the ride back is just important because every time you took a ride back from a long field trip, somebody fell asleep.
Yeah. And thankfully, you were teaching younger kids because high school kids falling asleep on a bus, that's dangerous. They could wake up without eyebrows.
Right.
But I think is those moments that stay with the kid forever are those special moments, a field trip, a special art project, a special moment in an athletic event or a play. It's where kids come together with a teacher and they experience that love that you were talking about, giving a kid as an educator, giving educators a chance to step out from behind the desk or from behind the book and really share parts of themselves with the kids, and the kids having the feeling comfortable enough to open themselves up to this person that they respect so much.
Right. It's just, I think in the beginning of the book, you will see an actual picture where we went on a field trip to the farm. Oh. Everyone's holding pumpkins. And a lot of those families still remember those trips. And boy, I can tell you, it's just, I have one more book I'm going to put out about a field trip, but I'm going to save that for later. But the going to the farm had to be the first one because that was just, like I said, the most special trip of all of them. Yeah. And I have to say this about my family because they're going to listen to this later. The Ramsey farm I named it after our surname, after our family from Alabama. So that's why it's named Ramsey's Farm. And my best friend is Cowboy Cow. And he loved the book. He already, this is the best book. This is absolutely the best book.
Well, that's one of the things I love about your series, the Kindergarten Chronicles series, is that it not only talks about your relationship, being a man teaching kindergarten, which is unusual, and you're a tall black man, and it's obvious you have this relationship with your students, but the family relationship that is making these books possible, that comes through in the books too, and I think that that's something that's really special.
It is. Yeah. And this book was also dedicated to my grandparents who are still alive. They both in their 90s.
Oh, and wonderful.
I have 3 sets of grandparents, and 2 of them have passed away. And I said, well, they're still alive, so I need to make the first book. This one need to go to them so they can see it. So I really want, it is about family from my grandparents to my mom, all the way to my little grandson who's 2 years old. And think I'm gonna do a book. Well, I've already written it, and he's in it, but we're gonna let that be a surprise.
Awesome. So what a beautiful thing. Now, so some of your grandparents are still alive.
Yes.
You're a grandfather, so that 2-year-old has a great grandparents in their lives.
Great grandparents. Yeah.
Wow, that's so
to see 'em,
cool.
right, and hold them.
Yeah, that's so. I had a great grandmother who was still alive, and actually had a chance to spend many years with her. But I didn't have that great. That's pretty special, pretty unusual too.
It is.
Yeah. So, what was it that inspired you to become a children's author? You certainly had a lot to do being a teacher. Where did you find the time and the inspiration to put this series together?
I think that what did it, we weren't married at the time, but my now wife, we were just sitting around talking about school, and I had all these stories in my head, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write a story this summer. And she looked at me like, yeah, right. And that summer I wrote 2 stories. And it just kept growing from there. And then I made an outline. Actually, the first day of school was supposed to be the first book. Mm-hmm. But it didn't happen that way. So December Celebrations ended up being the first book. And we just celebrated the 4th year anniversary. And it's still December Celebration is my favorite.
Yeah.
It's nothing like bringing together the 3 holidays and teaching students about people all over the world, and we all come together as one. And it's a really special book.
Yeah, that is a wonderful book. It talks about celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa. And my attitude is, man, if we celebrate everybody's holiday, we'd be celebrating like most of the year. That's cool. This is really wonderful. Now, one of the things I should mention is that all of the books in the Kindergarten Chronicles series have been named Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Reads. So our panel love this series a whole lot.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And my wife's book too.
And yes, absolutely. Remind me of the name of your wife's book.
Ruby Smiles.
Yeah, Ruby Smiles, a great book, and also another Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read. Boy, how many, you mentioned that you have another field trip book that you have planned for the series. Can you give us a hint at where we might be taking that field trip to?
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you. 3 years ago, I took a trip down to Martin Luther King Center. To just scout it out, because I said I'm going to write this book about taking a class down to the Martin Luther King Center, because that time of year there are a lot of books out about him, but I want to take it from a different perspective of little kids going to see this man, and so the book is taking a field trip to the King Center.
Oh, wonderful! And
getting to see all about him, and it's ironic because now I teach at Martin Luther King Elementary.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm going to tell you my favorite, the weirdest field trip that I ever went on. And actually was one that I went on as an adult. My daughter and one of our international students came out on tour with me. Mm-hmm. And they were both teenagers. The student from Italy was actually a medical student. She was 19. My daughter was 16 or 17, I think. We were on tour. We were in Atlanta. And that's the reason I'm thinking of this. And while she was down in the lobby doing her homework, the Italian student met somebody who told them that there was a special museum in Atlanta that she should check out since she was a medical student. Mm-hmm. So she came up and she said, "Can we go to the Disease Museum at the CDC?" And I said, "Okay." And we did. And it was the most interesting and weird experience I've ever had. To be in a building and learn about the wonderful things that medical science has done, and to learn about the diseases that we've been able to conquer, and I'm sure that there's going to be an exhibit about the coronavirus at some point in the future. but also to be learning about that and then realize that on all the floors above you, that's where they keep all these deadly, horrible diseases. And that was like, I'm not quite sure if I want to be here.
Yeah.
What's the strangest or most unusual experience on a field trip that you've ever had as a teacher?
Leaving a student on field.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I had never done it. Only once. And we went to the pumpkin patch. Went to get a Christmas tree. Went to the field. It was during the holidays when we used to take a field trip to cut down a tree and bring it back to school. Mm-hmm. And her name was Macy. And it was the only time I ever lost a student. But her mom, we told her mom, we found her and they brought her back to the school on the bus. But her mom said, "Oh, it happens all the time. I lose all." So I didn't feel so bad. I was like, "Ooh, thank you."
Well, hopefully the statute of limitations has run out on that.
It has. I was okay.
Well, that's really wonderful. When do you think, and obviously you don't know unless you have a crystal ball somewhere in your home, but do you have an idea of when we're going to be able to take kids out on field trips again and have school assemblies and get back to some sort of sense of normalcy in our schools?
Some schools are taking field trips.
Wow.
I'm not in a hurry to go in any. I think, honestly, maybe 2-3 years.
Wow.
It all depends on, we're kind of rushing out of this, I feel like. Mm-hmm. We're in a real big rush to get back, but I think we need to just take our time and make sure everything is okay before we just say, okay, take off all masks, everything is okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think this holiday season we'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
That would really tell if it's going to be a year or it's going to be 2 or more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm praying that it's good news this holiday season.
I hope so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know, Dr. Terance, people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about the field trip, to find out more about all of the books in the Kindergarten Chronicles.
Number one place to go is www.terenceshipman.com.
All right.
I just went to the post office today, shipped off 2 orders. And we do fast shipping. As soon as we get an order, that night, I tell my wife, I got to go pack these books up. The next day, I'm shipping them out. So, yes, to go to the website or Amazon, one of the two, but I prefer us.
Sure. Yes.
So you can get an autographed copy.
Yeah.
And one more plug I have to throw out. I've been on your show so many times. My wife and I wrote a book that's coming out in February 1st. It's about a family of superheroes, black superheroes. It's never been seen. We're not the Incredibles. It's something totally different. People who have read it so far, we have a few sneak copies, said this need to be nominated for something. It is just awesome. So, and it has 5 different colors.
Ooh, okay. All right. Well, we are looking forward to it. You have an open invitation. You and your wife can come back to celebrate this new book in the spring. We can't wait. And in the meantime, there's lots of time to go on to TeranceShipman.com.
Yes.
And order your books for the holiday season. They make great holiday gifts, a great addition to any family library. And the latest book in the Kindergarten Chronicles is The Field Trip by our guest, Dr. Terance Shipman. Hey, Dr. Terance, we love having you on. Thank you so much for being back.
Thank you.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. It's time for another Reading with Your Kids Rewind. Moments worth resharing from the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're going to be looking back at some great moments from 2021 from our Protecting the Planet with Your Kids series. You don't want to miss it. Hey, if you're the author of a fantastic children's book, you don't want to miss the opportunity to celebrate your book with the Reading with Your Kids podcast. There are so many ways we can help you tell the world about your great book. Of course, you can be a guest on the podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your book, and it doesn't cost a thing. You can also submit your book to our Certified Great Read program. You heard early in the show that Mission Control is our latest Certified Great Read. Your book could be our next Certified Great Read. And you can also take part in our monthly promotion program, where we celebrate your book through commercials on the podcast, messages to our 60,000 plus social media followers, and have your book displayed on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards. You can learn all about these programs and more by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Scroll on down to find our various services. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Dr. Terance Shipman. Be sure to check out Field Trip to the Farm, the latest in his Kindergarten Chronicles series. Also want to thank our sponsor, the book by Alva Sachs. You can learn more about this great author's books by going to her website, alvasachs.com. Also want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.